Hey y'all, welcome in. Next time, bring a friend. So let's get right down to it. You have joined the Questions That Keep Me Up at Night podcast. If you got the invite and checked out the website, you know the spiel. So let's get into it. This month's quote states, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives, not the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change." Charles Darwin. That's me, y'all. Adaptable Adeline. Need a funny girl? There's a me for that. Need a praying friend? There's a me for that. Need a helping hand? There's a me for that. Need a pit bull? There's a me for that too. I joke, I kid, but nah, for real. Don't mess with my folks. There's a me for that. So, my good people, is relational caution faux pas or self preservation? This is a question that has been hunting me for years. Maybe not the actual question, but the sentiment behind it. It is a very difficult question for me, mostly because it is very personal and an internal struggle. If you checked out the website lately, you'll see that I posted a portion of a previous podcast that I was part of. In that recording, it was said that endearing titles like best friend are reserved for someone with whom you can be your complete self, flaws and all. You may not like how they said what they said all the time or even every time, but that doesn't change how you feel about that person. Hmm, I think it goes a bit deeper than that, but I'll just go on record saying that I think there is no such thing as a best friend. Yes, we use the word, but really, spouses and parents tend to love unconditionally. But outside of that, relationships are pretty situational. And there are some pretty horrible parents and spouses, so I'm definitely not talking about those. But as for me, I tend to take relational caution. All too often, it seems like how people feel about me and others is based off of how well I present myself. I tend to think of myself as a very weird person, the real me, anyways. Not too many people can handle all that I am. I remember my cousin saying to me after I'd expressed that I'm one way with this person and another with that one. She said, "You're fake. That's being fake." I took such offense to that, so much so that I remember it all these years later. However, now the mature person that I think I've become sees her point. I'm actually very strategic in how I approach relationships with people so that I protect my sanity. Realistically, you can only hurt me so much because I can only care just enough. I go into relationships with hypervigilance, unconsciously telling me this will end eventually, you're going to push them away. Having human emotions will only get you so far, and survival is your go. Now, if that ain't preservation, I don't know what is. It has worked for me for years, and honestly, I see nothing wrong with it. Except I think too much about what is morally right and societally wrong. And that's the part that drives me crazy. That's the thing that keeps me in unhealthy relationships. It seems that my attachments are guilty attachments, not emotional ones. Self preservation means a natural or instinctive tendency to act so as to preserve one's own existence. And faux pas just means a false step. So now I ask you, is the instinctive tendency to preserve your own existence a false step? What do you think? The floor is open.
Wow. So that keeps you up at night. That question, faux pas, false step, or the preservation of self in relationship. So I think that relationship is necessary for existence, and that our desire for relationship is normal and natural. It takes relationship for a person to even enter into the world. There's a relationship between sperm and egg. It has to be a relationship. And children are raised in the context of relationship in families. People are not going to survive outside of relationship. You brought up something about attachment styles. There are different types of attachment styles, and Attachment styles have to do with how we were raised and traumas that we have suffered. Those, though we can't fix how we were raised, we can understand our attachment styles and understand why we attach the way we attach to improve our relatedness with other people. And regarding fakeness or not fakeness when we are different ways with different people, yes, you're gonna be a a certain way. I mean, the real you is the real you. But I think, there's depths of relatedness that you get with certain people that you don't get with other people, which may not be fake. It just may have to do with how you can work in that relationship. Like with a cashier at a grocery store, you're gonna reveal certain things and other things you won't reveal.
I think in response to what you said, you're going to have different ways to relate to people. And yes, we are relational people. I think it's more those in depth relationships that we're supposed to have. So, not with the cash register, not with your doctor, maybe not even with your coworkers, because those are people that you don't necessarily choose to be around. It is those people who are your friends, your cousins, your brother, your sisters. There's always this thing in the back of my head to reel myself in, to, not with this person. No, not that with this person. No, not that with this person. So that I don't even know if it's about embarrassment, but so that I continue to compartmentalize. So I know, like, if there's a misstep, then I can know, okay, what I did, because I know how I act with this person, and I know how I act with that person.
I think that compartmentalizing in relationships is, or knowing what to share with certain people is healthy to a point. I think there comes a point where you can overdo it, where you're so careful with what you're saying to certain people or how you're presenting to certain people that it prevents you from having a certain depth of relationship that we all need. But I do think that not everybody deserves uh you know, to experience us at a certain level because they don't know, like you said, what to do with all of who you are. Or they don't, they're just not able to relate on that level, which is fine because not everybody can. But I think it's important to be able to discern, I don't really know how to, but be able to discern who is safe to proceed with that depth of level, the deeper levels of relating to other people. And when we over um, compartmentalize or over self preserve, I think it prevents us from doing that.
I like that you said over compartmentalize. Going back to the question, is it just self preservation, or is it a false step? And a lot of times we use faux pas as in, like, oh, that's a social faux pas. Like, you can't do that. But I just mean, like, the real true meaning of the word, is it a false step? And when you talk about over compartmentalizing, many times that comes from experience. So if I continue to, I was going to use a stub my toe analogy, but I can't use that because I stub my toe every single day. Somehow, some way, I haven't got the picture that that's going to hurt. Let's talk about maybe a stove. And you know that if you go around this way, the stove is going to be hot. You're not going to go around that way, especially if you burnt yourself real bad one time. I'm not going to go around that way. And if I have to go around that way, I'm going to make sure I have gloves, I have something, because I don't want to burn myself again. That to me seems like preservation. You have to cook, right? It's something that you have to do. Or maybe you enjoy to cook, you want to eat. So you're going around that stove because it's something you enjoy. You like this person, you enjoy them, but you know that you have been hurt time and time again. So I'm going to over compartmentalize because I need to keep myself safe.
listening to you kind of reminded me of myself, still evolving, of course, but was there for a while, as far as his self-preservation. And a lot of it comes from, I think somebody had said that a lot of times it deals with how you were, your home life, how you were raised. Mine, when I was young, coming up, I dealt with a lot of abandonment issues, right? Lost my mother, lost my father. So, of course, I put the guard up, self-preservation. I don't want to feel that pain anymore. I don't want to experience that pain. So in some ways you could become, because you want to keep those relationships, preserve that relationship, because we do need community. We do need relation. But although I guarded myself, I still needed relationships. So that's where the compartmentalization came from. Studying people, seeing what they like. I can give a little bit of myself. With that evolved into people pleasing because I needed the relationship, but then I was not willing at the same time to give or to allow them to get in close to me. So in some ways I've found that I'm saving myself. I'm keeping myself from being hurt, from being burned again, but then I'm not really experiencing life. I'm not really allowing myself to experience love. I didn't want anybody to get too close, because I got too close. And I had that thought too, if they knew who I really am, they probably wouldn't want to be around me. Or if they knew who I really was, I don't know, they might not, it's like they basically couldn't handle that person. So, I set up all these roadblocks, but at the end of the day, it wasn't helping me. It made me more depressed because I couldn't really be that person I wanted to be. In some cases I would overextend myself, but it was extending myself to please them, but afraid to allow them to come close so that I can actually be myself. That relationship was never going to go anywhere. And so I spent most of my life going through life like that. And it came to a fork in the road where I had to really look at that. I want to experience love. I want to experience that pain. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, I needed to experience it so that the real me could evolve, you know? So I feel like this self-preservation thing, that's what the first word says a lot. To a certain point, I mean, yeah, I get us not wanting to be heard or trying to be, extra cautious, but then it can get to a place where you still are lonely. You still, are not able to experience the things that all of us really want to experience, which is love, because we're always keeping our hand up to a certain degree. We're not allowing ourselves to really express who we are because, we don't want to get burned, or we we want that relationship so badly that, we sacrifice ourselves.
So, I heard Wambui say a word that kind of helped me figure out how to articulate my point of view with this. She used the word safe. And I think that as human beings, we tend to do things with the intentions of safety, especially as women, right? It's always our concern to uh, keep ourselves in safe spaces. In conjunction with that, like, for example, you wouldn't go to a dentist for gynecology, right? You wouldn't go to the gynecologist to get your teeth fixed. We compartmentalize, and rather we rely on specialties, right? Areas of specialty in order to handle certain situations. So just like people, I feel like everybody doesn't have the capacity to provide everything. And given all of our childhoods and our upbringings, our backgrounds, we develop whatever we develop and within these capacities. Some people would say one friend is really easy to talk to, and you can just kind of tell him or her anything and everything without judgment, without them interrupting, without the nuances of feeling uneasy, versus another friend, you would you wouldn't tell them certain details because, again, maybe they don't have the capacity to understand, maybe they don't have the life experience, Maybe they don't have the wisdom, and just overall the understanding to be able to help you in that sense. So I don't think it's a point of being fake with people. I think really it's wisdom. You learn to utilize people in your community and those around you for whatever you need at any given time. And I think that's actually important for us to do because you want to preserve relationships. You want to harness relationships. You want to understand where people are strong and where people are weak, because we're all here, we're all being used, whether in a malicious way or in a genuine way. And we all should be able to use others in genuine ways. So in order to do that and understand that and how that works, I think it is important that we compartmentalize and we choose wisely what we say, what we do, how we say and how we do things in order to help ourselves and to help others.
So that makes a lot of sense. But that word gives this weird feeling like no one wants to be used, right? But if I'm honest, we all use people. Is that okay to use people? I know you said like people use people negatively. There are people who use things positively. I will say, I remember one time, I think we had a event, a church event or something, and I had all these people in my phone, all my homies. And I had a doctor in here. This person does tech, this person does this, I have this person for this. And I felt so empowered that everybody I had in my phone has like something that I could use and that could help out. I didn't feel like I was using people at that time. But essentially, that is using people. I'm not sure if somebody wants to comment on that, but before we go there, Carlina said something that reminded me of a situation that actually we both were in. So every year for New Year's, I would always be at Carlina's house. We would always have a ball all day long, and then we would have people come over, and then I'd go to work at 11 p.m. And so every year I'm used to being around her, the kids, I'm used to being around her friends. And that's just what we do. Sometimes it's tamed down, sometimes it's just us. And I remember one year an ex came over, and at the time he wasn't an ex. And so we were together and he came over, and it just was so awkward, just like sitting around. And then I kind of forgot he was there, and I kind of got, started acting goofy with Carlina. And then I realized he was there again. And I'm like, oh, it was almost like I forgot that I wasn't being that person. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about with that, with the following conversation. It was like, well, that's not somebody you need to be with. So if you say that about a intimate relationship or a romantic relationship, then when it comes to friends, if that happens, do we say, oh, that's not somebody you need to be around because you can't be yourself? How do we follow up with that one?
I think authenticity is extremely important in one's life. In that regard, I would definitely question the relationship because if you feel like you have to be inauthentic and you can't be organic and natural within reason, and when I say within reason, some people like for instance, Akila, you are a religious woman, right? And I don't practice organized religion. So there's certain things out of respect for you and vice versa. I wouldn't discuss or talk in a certain, well, not that I wouldn't discuss things, but I would speak in a certain way that would not offend you by my views of things in a way where we can still discuss things, but I don't shun you or I don't, degrade your beliefs or anything of that sort. That's respect. But to say that I can't be who I am or feel how I feel or behave how I naturally behave and be inauthentic, I think that is an issue. Romantic, platonic, even with family. again, respect is important. And I think that as we become older and more mature, that wisdom comes in when you learn how to be discerning and how you present yourself, right? Presentation is important, but completely withholding who you are, I think that's an issue in my opinion.
That's very well said. I think that is key. That the withholding who you are. Yeah, again, like you said, you don't go to, your gynecologist for a dentist appointment. I'm not gonna act how I act with Wambui, at work. Like I'm just not gonna do that. I'm not gonna go to an interview and use the same vernacular that I would use with my spouse or my mother. So there are ways to compartmentalize things. I want to go back to the guilt part. That is something that I deal with quite often, and probably another reason why I have questions that keep me up at night. But a lot of times there's this guilt attached to it, and I don't quite know how to describe it. It's not always that I feel bad about doing something, it's that I've been told that that's not right. And then because I've been told that that's not right, I have the guilt about it. And so that's where I kind of resonate with my cousin when she says I'm fake, where I force situations sometimes, relationships sometimes, because I have some guilt about not being in a relationship with certain people. That's something I'm not sure if other people have dealt with, but that's another kind of portion of that question.
Well, yeah, I get that. Like with my dad and my brother. Well, with my dad, I've just, he's my dad, so we're supposed to be in a relationship. But I've never really, well, especially since he's been married to his current wife, which has been since I was 15, and now I'm 62. I've not felt that he really wants me or wants to be in a relationship with me. But I still have a feeling that whether he wants me or not, he's my dad. And so then I want him, or he can't be replaced in that. But I've come to learn that I can't force a relationship, and I shouldn't feel guilty because I didn't choose for us not to relate. I mean, I've spent time thinking, well, he thinks that he doesn't want to be in a relationship with me, but maybe he needs me to show him that he really wants to be in a relationship with me. I really believed that for a while. That he was traumatized as a youth, and therefore he needs help from me to show him that he needs to be in a relationship with me. But I don't believe that anymore. I think that was an issue that I was going through in being rejected in the first place. Just going back to what Carlina said about, you're using me, I'm using you for whatever. I think that is a bit transactional. And I don't think that is the only way to relate. Sometimes we find ourselves in relationship with people we weren't planning to be in relationship with them. We have this proximity issue which came to be, and it worked. It was sort of serendipitous, and it wasn't something that person planned or something that we planned, but it works for us somehow. So with if I think I need a dad right now, I guess in a sense I don't, because I'm already grown. And from a transaction standpoint, then I needed a dad to help me grow up if I needed a dad. But since I'm grown, I don't need that anymore, conceivably. But then again, there's that support that I need. But he's not giving the support, so I guess he's not helping me grow. So that feelings about, what it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to have a relationship with my dad, and when I hear people talking about their relationship with their dad, I'm missing something because that's not happening with me. Um, you know, there's that. Now I gotta go fix this so I can be normal like other people. Yeah, I don't believe that serves me, and I don't think that I should rely on that belief or that feeling. I think that I should be who I am and relate to whom to the people I do relate to.
Yeah, she said at one point, you're gonna love me. I think that I've been there. I've been there. It's like, oh, you think you don't want to be around me, but you do. Just watch. I'm cool. And they're like, nah, bruh, I really am cool off of you. I don't have any need for you around. I think the essence behind this question is it's more of the feeling that you're not enough. And I guess I want to put that on the table because this is something that I kind of went back and forth with. Sometimes, you know how people make jokes about themselves before somebody else can? It's like I'm saying, I know I'm a little weird, I'm a little awkward. There's some pet peeves of mine. There's some things. There's always these little ticks. There's all these little things, and I'm like, I know about me. I live with myself every single day. I get tired of myself, so I know that you're gonna get tired of me. And I'm looking like right now, I don't think our relationships, our personalities mesh. And so, and let me clarify. This is not somebody you meet on the street. This is not your coworker. I'm talking about genuine relationships that you've had with people for years. You've cultivated them and you realize that in some ways you just can't relate to them, or in some ways you're afraid maybe that they will see the real you and won't really like you like that. And so my question is it a false step to not be all in? Because like TT Juju said, I mean, sometimes you need to feel that. Like, you could guard yourself as much as you want to. She even said you need to feel the pain. I don't want to feel no pain, but sometimes I guess to be human, you have to go all in. And so my question really is it a false step in saying, no, let me go ahead and tease myself before they can get to it. Let me go ahead and protect myself because I know you're going to find this out about me before you can get to it. I mean, isn't that okay when at the end of the day, you're with yourself? You have to be with yourself. You can't divorce yourself. Everybody else can leave you, everybody else can get away from you, but you're going to be with yourself. So I would rather protect myself than feel the pain, so to speak.
It sounds like you would be sabotaging an opportunity to be in relationship if you put out the fact that even if you even say you're not gonna like me, it's a two-way street. I might not like you, or I might not like us together. I would just say, false step. I mean, yeah, that's a misstep in self protection. It might be intentional, be self protection, but it's not self protective because you're throwing yourself under the bus by saying you're not going to like me. You're making assumptions about yourself that are self defeating because at the end of the day, like you said, you're going to be with yourself. So anything that you're ever going to be is going to be in you.
I just wanted to bring up inauthenticity or authenticity again. I've heard that it's the highest form of like love, being able to be pure in who you are, right? So if that's the case, then you are depriving yourself of self-love when you're showing up in a way that isn't authentic. Another point is it fear of losing that person in that relationship? Is that why one would guard, quote unquote, guard themselves or withhold? And then one more point um, is it a form of people pleasing? People pleasing, is it because you want to manage someone else's feelings and make sure that they're feeling good? And does that mean that in turn you're suppressing your own happiness? Because if that's the case, I mean, it's definitely an issue. We all should be able to be happy in if given moment and choosing the people that you're around. I mean, I know you can't choose your family and stuff like that, but you can still choose who you spend your time with. And if someone, I mean, maybe going within self to ask self, why am I feeling like this around this person? really digging deep. For me personally, if someone makes me feel like platonic relationships is, I think for me it's different, platonic versus romantic relationships. Specifically platonic relationships, if someone makes me feel some kind of way, it doesn't take me too long to take my space. But when it comes to romantic relationships, that's something that I've had to work on in my life is, you know, when I'm not feeling good about something or being who I am, I need to separate myself sooner than later, because then I begin to the people pleasing, that whole aspect of codependency, that's the word. People pleasing, depending on someone else to kind of aid my comfort by altering how I behave or how I speak. And again, me personally, I don't think that's a good trait to have for me specifically, and I think everyone. But back to authenticity, it is so important to be who we are with tact, with respect, because the suppression of yourself can turn into a lot of internal issues. And one more thing, I wanted to go back to the whole using word. Maybe there's a better word I can choose, but for the sake of understanding, like we all, when people come into our lives, we decide whether they're going to be there or they're not, right? Is there a need or is there not a need? Does this make me feel good? Is this safe for me or is it unsafe for me? So, in essence, when there's a need for something, there's a use of something, right? And that's what I mean by we're all using each other. Like me and Akila, our relationship, we know each other's strengths and weaknesses, right? So, if there's something I'm really good at and you need help with that, you're going to utilize my strength and come to me because we're friends and that's what community does, right? So that's my point when I was trying to articulate the whole usage of one another.
So for clarification on that, Carlina, I'm use. Um, I'm not really at issue with that word because I know a lot of times we do benefit from the talents of other people. I guess it's just a perspective. We can be transactional a lot of times with people we love and people we don't know. Sometimes it's just there are certain things that happen that are not generated from within either of the people. It's not naturally transactional. It's something that happens where we don't have control over it. So when we're using good or bad, I'm not even characterizing whether it's good or bad. When we're using it's intentional on our part or the other person's part. Sometimes we find ourselves in community and in service that happens, like you say, organically for the benefit of the community. It's something that happens, like maybe like you standing up for yesterday to get the dress, where she wasn't using you, she was just like saying this happened, and you weren't using her. You were just like, no, that's not fair. There was something that was going on that came about because of a need, and there was a something that called forth the people's personalities or their traits or their sense of duty, their sense of justice, their sense of love for their friend, which I think brought out the authentic self of the people that were in that situation. Everybody at some point became authentic, authentically weird, authentically protective, authentically receiving. And so I don't know if that's different, but that's just my perspective on it.
I understand what Carlina is talking about in her sense, but I'm glad that you brought up the part of using people. Because again, I want to go back. I'm bouncing kind of off of maybe something that I deal with. So, two things. First, I want to go to what Carlina was saying about the codependent and managing. That's something I have not heard. Trying to manage other people's emotions. Is that what you said? Managing other people's emotions. that is part of it. I'm actually probably ashamed to say that, but I think that is part of it. Is let me embarrass myself before you can embarrass me, because I'm pretty sure you're going to embarrass me. Even though I don't know what you're thinking, I'm pretty sure that I know your type of personality and you're going to embarrass me. Like that type of thing. Yes, there's definitely this trying to manage other people's emotions so that I don't have to get it when it's least expected, because I don't want to be hurt. And then the using part, and again, I understand that you were saying this in a different vein, Carlina, but I'm glad that mom, you brought this up, because there is a sense that, let me just put it like this, I'll call my good friends or not, people that I know. And if I have to ask you for something and I'm not calling to just chat, I'm like, ring, hi, hey. So I'm calling because blah, 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 right? I try not to do the niceties, the oh, hey, whatever, because I don't want people to feel like I'm using them when when there are people that I actually have in my phone, because I know that they're good at something. We don't necessarily have a good relationship, and I know they're good at something. And so when I call them, I'm not going to go into the, hey, so how's the weather? How's this? Because I'm getting right down to the point. So you can tell me yay or nay. And over the years, I've learned that as me keeping people around to use them. And because I learned that about me, I started cutting people off. Not because I dislike them, but because our relationship doesn't go past what they can do for me. And I feel like me calling them every time, hey, I just need this, is ridiculous, because if somebody does that to me, I'm not answering the phone. So because I don't want to continue to do that and our relationship doesn't go any further, I just cut that relationship off.
I know I've been talking a lot, but I just want to say, if there's something about that person that can enhance your life, i.e., whatever you're calling to use them for, then there's something about that person that is okay to acknowledge who they are and find out how was your day. I mean, even though I'm getting ready to use you, in some cultures, you don't use somebody until you find out how their family is. I mean, you're going to use them, that's fine. But before you use me, find out how my day was. Find out how my family is. And when we take that time to find out about them before we use them, we can find out that, hey, there's something inside of them that creates this space for them to build something that I can use. Meaning that what we call to use them for is not the totality of who they are. That people can really not be replaced by AI, and people cannot be replaced by computers, because there's something about us, whether it was a beating we got when we were 2 years old, or how we admire flowers, or what love that our mom gave us when she fed us chili and we liked chili, and we turned into this person. That you can do that a couple of ways. You can decide that I'm going to cut you off because I don't like you enough to find out how your day was. I just want to use you, but I know that's not right. So I'll cut you off. Or we can do it another way by saying, hmm, maybe if I spend a little time with this person, or maybe if I just acknowledge this person's humanity by saying, well, how was your day? Even though I really don't care, maybe something that you say might change my reaction or my transaction with you, where I really see you as somebody I could just love for no reason at all.
Couldn't hold it. I was so laughing when you said some cultures they ask how's your day going before you use them. But I get what you're trying to say. No, yeah, that's, and again, I mean, you know, hoping you guys have, checked the emails, but this is also a podcast that dives into talk therapy. There is a therapeutic thing in talking these things out, seeing other perspectives, and sometimes when saying it out loud to hear how crazy something might sound. Any opinions or any comments are welcome.
I'm just listening to this word use, and the Lord has made a whole system on use. Everything that is created that has some type of life, you know, we use each other. For instance, when a body is decomposed, there are insects that eat that. So it's like God made this whole system of giving, taking. And so I look at it as more of a need. We need each other, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. Some people take it for granted, but even the taker that calls himself using, that's still a need. We're all giving and taking. And that's the perspective of how the person is looking at it, where they are mentally is how it's received. But I think that basically the word I look at instead of saying use is that it's a need. We all need each other to some degree. And I think God made it that way. He wants it that way. He doesn't want any one of us to be islands. He wants us to be able to be interdependent on each other. Talking about codependency, been there, still dealing with it, still coming out of it, but nowhere near where I used to be. Like Carlita was saying, that there's a great level of in the codependency circuit of people pleasing and getting to that place of where I was talking about that pain component was that I realized that I didn't want to give that part of myself that was going to be hurt. But in realizing that in order for me to be that authentic person that I wanted to be and, give of myself to that level, which was something that I felt, first of all, like I said, no one could accept if they knew me. I don't feel like would really be able to receive me. But also it's the underlying situation was that I just was afraid. It was just fear. But I realized that in order for me to experience this love and to really experience, to allow a person to get that deep, I had to be authentic. And coming to that place of authenticity, I had to release that part of either feeling like I'm being used or allowing a person to get close enough to see that part that I was afraid that they wouldn't care about or love. I had to get to that place first, of acceptance, because that's where the pain came from, is being able to, this is who I am and I'm pushing it out there. I'm letting people see this. I'm letting them get that close. So that vulnerability was very deep. And that's where the pain came from. But when I realized when I did that, when I did allow myself, I opened myself up and began to release that authentic me. And yes, I did experience the pain, but now I notice now the people pleasing component subsided. It's nowhere near where it used to be. Like I said, I haven't arrived, but I'm still, I'm still moving in that direction. That's not something that keeps me awake at night anymore. If somebody cares or doesn't care, if somebody accepts what I have to say in a conversation, or am I presentable, all that kind of stuff. That stuff, I don't deal about. That's not something I meditate on. And it was because I had to, finally come to that place of acceptance of myself. That's basically what it came down to, me accepting myself. And then being transparent enough and, courageous enough to allow somebody else in to experience that. So when we're trying to get to that, what I found that when you're trying to get to that place of authenticity, there is going to be that level of pain, because it's a very vulnerable place to be. It's a very scary place to be, because, on the other end of that is that it could be lost. That person that you're giving yourself to may not be into you like that. Or they may be into you like that, but then something happens to them. Like my thing had to deal with a lot of, people that were close to me seemed to die. So I was afraid of that whole component, or just seeing relationships that did not work. I saw a lot of violence in relationships, and being a part of that myself. So it's like, and I had even with that component of being in a relationship that was, abusive, you would think, and I didn't even give even a portion of myself. I was had my hands up for that. So like, to go to the next level and really like let myself go and, be raw with it, it's very scary, but it was so rewarding, because now I'm in a happy place.
I think Juliet brought it all the way full circle. I think what she just said is like the answer. The more we become comfortable with ourselves, love on ourselves, the less we are so tense about worrying what other people think of us. We always bring our heart to every relationship, every situation. But when it's all said and done, what other people think of us is really not our business. We can't do anything about that. We're showing up with good intentions. We kumbayaing all day long. We don't want to hurt nobody. We don't want anyone to hurt us. We always want the best for people around us and for ourselves, right? And our intentions are always pure. And that's really our responsibility. That's it. So what other people think of us is really up to them and their lens and where they are in life. And again, trying to manage what other people think of us and manage their feelings and how they feel about us and worrying about, X, Y, and Z, it becomes a web of confusion, a web of doubt. We get consumed with all those thoughts that when it's all said and done, it makes our lives more complicated. There's things we could be focusing on that can be helping us, right? Or helping other people. So authenticity, I think, is definitely extremely important, and leading with that will attract those who should be in our lives and repel those who should not.
Very well said. As we get ready to wrap this up, I will say that I think from everybody who spoke, I got a different revelation. The one thing I think, Carlina, you said it best, that was really brought home by TT, that self-love and not so much worrying about what other people think. It is a heavy chain around your neck, your ankle, and your wrists to continually worry about what people think. And it is a chain that I've been wearing for quite some time, a very, very long time. And one of my favorite songs, before I, went back to the church, there was a song that said, "Now I'm a ride because I got riding in my bloodline. And I'm a shine because I got shining in that bloodline. I get that though because I got hustle in my bloodline. I bleed concrete." I used to love that song because I felt like if I epitomize that song, if I walk around like nothing bothers me and I bleed concrete, I will get respect. And then it doesn't matter what people think about me because they respect me because I'm hard and I'm like that. That is so comical because it doesn't work like that. But I just want to thank everybody for coming on today and speaking their mind and being vulnerable, because honestly, that's really what it is. It's being vulnerable. I'm looking at the discussion and Akila says each child is born looking for someone looking for them. Let me say that again. Each child is born looking for someone looking for them. Wow, that's deep. As I close, I do want to give a shout out to my spouse, because the one thing I know, it's so funny. My mom told me one time, whoever's going to be with you, I forgot what she said, whoever's going to be with you is going to be a special person. And she wasn't being rude, but she was just saying it, and it's very, very true. And there's so much freedom and liberty in being with someone who is not fazed by your weirdness, who doesn't see you as like a four-eyed monster, who genuinely loves your being even when your breath is horrible. Like, even when you have weird idiosyncrasies, even when you wash your hands 50 million times and they're already clean, like the weirdness, the craziest person you could be, and that person still sees you as perfect in their eyes, that right there is true freedom to be your authentic self. So I just want to give a shout out. I want to thank you guys all for joining. I want to thank my TT out there in the audience. I see you. Thank you for the comment. Great topic and discussion. And we will see you all next month on questions that keep me up at night. And remember, don't forget to remember to use your noggin. Bye.